Good afternoon and welcome to my office. I, like perhaps many others, have been painfully aware, so to speak, of the continual political brawling in Washington, D.C. If children suffer from dysfunctional parents, it isn't a leap to think that we citizens suffer from dysfunctional government. Up until postmodern times, many, or dare I say, most Americans held to some kind of Judeo-Christian values, whether they were committed believers or whether they be atheists. It would be an overstatement to say that we were ever a Christian nation. But there was a time when we were, in some sense, God-fearing. Hence the crafting of our Declaration of Independence and Constitution reflected. Yet regrettably, with resolute pessimism, I have no real hope for a resolution, since we no longer have that common center of divine values, nor fear in which to find such common unity. So, I turn my attention to the church, of which I have a deep commitment and a responsibility, and I ponder not so much the state of the disunion, but our relationship to it. Some time ago, I read of the late Neil Postman's observations between George Orwell, if you remember him, and Aldous Huxley. His insightful comparisons are significant and thought-provoking. Both authors provide dark and chilling forecasts for the future, but each very different from each other. While Orwell's 1984 signaled a dystopian government being the totally controlling in influence, Huxley's Brave New World saw no reason why the government should do so. Rather, as he saw it, people will come to love their oppression, to adore the technologies that undo their capacities to think. He went on to say that Orwell feared the banning of books, but Huxley feared that no one would want to read a book. Orwell feared that truth would be hidden from us, but Huxley feared we would be drowned out in a sea of irrelevance. Fundamentally, Orwell feared that what we hate and fear will ruin us. Huxley feared that what we love and its welcome would ruin us. So as a Christian, this brings me to a statement of the Apostle John. Do not love the world or the things of the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. And as to sharpen the point, John records Jesus saying, whoever does not hate his life loses it. In other words, to be fixated on things with the idea that they are necessary to fulfill my life is incompatible with loving God. It is, of course, very compatible with loving the world. I strongly suggest, in lieu of Huxley's observations, and more emphatically biblical ones, that you and I have every reason prophetically and culturally to conclude that we are living in the most dangerous place and perilous times on our planet, for the simple reason that we succumb to that which we have come to love, namely that we have come to love our illusion of peace, safety, and affluence. I strongly also suggest that threats from North Korea, terrorism, or COVID-19, among many others, is nothing compared to the danger of eternal spiritual losses incurred from pursuing a life of ease and comfort. This danger was the ruin of the Church of Laodicea, whose prosperity and comforts would rival our own. Amidst their peace and safety, Jesus condemned their living life forged out of middle ground between a love for God and their pursuit of comforts. And I would also suggest that Huxley is spot on, but also remarkably insightful concerning adoring our technologies. Technologies that present the danger of unprecedented distractions mentioned by industry leaders, educators, sociologists, psychologists, not to mention the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. Technologies that have been allowed to impair our capacities to think and concentrate. As a pastor, I can say that this equates to the inability for those inundated with such to hear God's voice, to know his desires, and to love his holiness. So I repeat, we who live in the West live in the most dangerous place in perilous times on our planet. Washington or Lansing is no real threat to the child of God, whether it legislates, no matter what it legislates, because as a final note, Jesus has called us out of this kingdom to fear God alone. Meanwhile, in the end, both Huxley and Orwell probably have it right. Government will most likely continue to become oppressive, for what can it do without a moral center? But become oppressive, its people, wearied from the stress of conflict, will most gladly sell their birthright for some peace of mind. After all, the Bible tells us in 1 Thessalonians 5:3 that just before the Lord comes again to render judgment, peace and safety will be the word on the street. And that's my word for today. Thank you for listening.